All right, everybody, welcome to the LongBox Paradox, episode 82. Thank you for those of you who joined us last week or watched the replay. It was one of those episodes that we really wanted to do. It was also anxiety-inducing, and I did have some repercussions in my personal life because of it, of having to reevaluate some people in my life, and having my LCS tell me that I'm too political.
So, because no politics in comics. Like, we're not allowed to talk about politics in comics. It's too much. But don't read V for Vendetta and don't read Watchmen, and while you're at it, don't read X-Men and.
I would like to thank our guest, Mindshift Kirk, for joining us. Kirk, if you see this, really enjoyed having you on. Actually, I'd love to have you on again. Once Philadelphia, you catch up on that, I'd love to have you on talking about that because I really think that's going to be in your wheelhouse. I hope your sabbatical from Instagram and social media is serving you well. A lot of people are doing it recently. And again, if you need to talk, Jen and I, our messages are always open to you. Thank you.
Yeah. I really enjoyed last week's episode, being able to, talk about politics and the current political climate and how it relates to comic books and how we're nerds and how comic books kind of shaped that,
Besides all that and the spike in COVID, that's a thing now. All the states that opened back up, Florida, looking at you.
Yep. Even here, I mean, obviously, I used to live in Florida, and so I'm a little bit tapped into what's been going on there. But I also saw that there was a spike in Oregon as well, and I don't know if that's because there was also a spike in California. So no matter where I go.
I imagine the protesters, the protesting, though, that would cause a spike because of everybody so grouped together.
For sure. After seeing how many people are out there, there's not a way to social distance when there's that many people going out, and especially here in Oregon. Here there was about 10,000 people, I think, that it's been estimated. So I heard one estimate to be 13,120.
Oof. So elsewhere in the news, more in the wheelhouse of this show, DC last week just comes in and goes, "All right, Diamond, we're done." My shop had said that basically they got the news Friday morning. By Friday night, they had signed up with UCS because that's the one for the East Coast.
Mm-hmm.
And by Monday morning, their terms had been reached and accepted. So they moved pretty fast getting people under contract with them. He said he managed to keep his discount structure.
That's good. I've been hearing from a couple of other shops. So for anyone who doesn't know what's going on with DC Comics and comic books in general, is that local comic book shops get their comic books from basically one distributor, Diamond Comics. During the quarantine, DC pulled back and still wanted to get people comic books, even though some comic shops weren't open. So they shifted a little bit to two others, Lunar and UCS, and one's East Coast, one's West Coast. And this seemed to be a temporary thing. And it was okay, because they can provide the logistics, DC Comics is going to separate maybe temporarily. And then as soon as comic book stores opened up, DC was we almost effective in 2 weeks from now, comic book stores or anyone who orders from Diamond won't be able to get our comic books from Diamond distributors. You have to go through these two other companies, which are basically shell companies that are other comic book stores. So for
Midtown Comics and DCBS.
Yeah. So specifically Midtown, I'm more familiar with Midtown. They're a comic book store in New York, and they do a lot of online shipping. And with DC, they even have advertisements in DC books. They have advertisements in a lot of comic books. So not only are local comic book stores now ordering from their direct competitor, they are ordering from a competitor that is going to have advertisements in the books that they're selling. And almost every local comic book shop that I've seen is now saying, we're not going to carry DC because of this specifically, we're not going to be carrying DC comic books on our shelves. And the only way that you can get it is if you have them specifically on our pull list, like you order it in advance, and that's it. We're not ordering extra copies for you. You want to see those, like, speculators come in and you want to see Batman's dick, or you want to see the first appearance of Punchline, or whatever it might be. You're going to have it on your pull list already if you want to see Batman's Batwing.
And a little bit more into logistics of it. So now your LCS has to pay another shipping charge on top of Diamond.
Yep.
And then if you, for God's sake, want to order a DC trade paperback that maybe is not a new one, you have to order through Penguin Putnam.
Yep.
So then there's another shipping charge on top of that. Newer graphic novels are going to be available through UCS or Lunar, though. But if you need to get a back one, you're going to have to order through Penguin. So, you're now having to pay possible triple shipping now.
Yep. And so that just, for comic book stores, like, think about it. I don't know.
Razor-thin profits.
So the profit margins are so tiny. And so even thinking about a book that, a single issue book is going to be about what, $3.99. Every now and then it's going to be like $4.99, $5.99, sometimes like $8 and $10 if it's going to be like a larger one. However, that $3.99 book that you're getting may have a profit margin. Even let's speculate 50% profit margin. And that could be with discounts. Sometimes they don't get discounts. And that's usually if you order a lot more. So thinking about a $2 profit margin on each book, and then you still have to pay several dollars in shipping, that could be your whole profit margin for anyone who has it on the pull list. So it's really disappointing. DC.
Very much so.
DC, this is like, I could say a lot of curse words, but.
And then Marvel's answer is, "Hey, we're gonna have variants that say on sale Wednesday."
Yeah.
I'm just like, really, guys? Like this is your big answer.
And that was like another thing that DC pulled during the quarantine, before stores started opening back up. They were like, well, what we're gonna do is we're going to allow comic book retailers to sell on Tuesdays, which I assume most people know who are watching this, Wednesday's New Comic Book Day, like that is the thing. And to have them say, well, you can go ahead and sell on Wednesdays or sell on Tuesdays, it's like some stores may not get it in, and you're making stores do double the work. So then they have to put only DC titles out before Wednesday, and then some customers may come in Tuesday and start to buy them and not come back Wednesday. So like DC is just pulling a lot of dumb shit. And I'm hoping that there's enough backlash that DC is going to change.
The Tuesday move in my mind is like specifically they get a day of nothing but DC being talked about. 100% they control the news that day. So any comic talked about is going to be a DC comic.
To be honest, I feel like I've talked about this even before. There really hasn't been much that's like pure DC. I'm not talking about like the Black Label or like the Hill House or anything like that. But other than maybe like Aquaman or some things like that, like DC's barely even on my radar, even before all this happening. That I know that's not true for a lot of people. That's just, a specific like Jennifer thing is that DC Comics hasn't done it for me in a while. So
that is basically the news going on with comics right now. DC, Diamond, and the split that everybody's being a little political on, except for the owner of Mile High Comics, who just came right out and just bashed them and basically said that he's not carrying DC.
Yeah.
So this week we're back to comic reviews, and we'll also be talking about some stuff on our pull lists after that. And so we'll start out with the reviews. I have stuff from last week too, since we did not talk about. Yeah. So you can go ahead and start, Jennifer.
So this is one. So yesterday was like my first day back into a comic book store in about 3 months, because even though like comic books started coming back, I broke my foot, couldn't really like get to the comic book store, and things here in Oregon were like we weren't one of the first states to like open back up. So like I said, this is the first time I got back into a comic book store in 3 months. So shout out to Books with Pictures here in Portland, Oregon. Katie and Nick, I love you. Like, you guys brighten my life a lot. But the one book that I wanted to talk about from last week, it's been on my radar for a little bit, and I really enjoy it. And speaking of DC, this is probably going to be one of the only DC titles that remains on my pull list is Far Sector, written by N.K. Jemisin, Jamal Campbell. Once again, there's not much that's on my radar as far as DC goes. And I'm not really like into like the superhero comic books, but this one deals with a lot, and it's so beautiful. I love this character a lot.
Jamal Campbell's art is just so good.
That one is going to be one of the only DC titles that remains on my pull list. I was even kind of wondering, should I keep DC on my pull list? Should I not? Should I just like entirely take it off? But since this particular title is a limited run, it's only going to be 12, and this one's issue number 6. I'm not sure what they're going to do with this story after. I mean, I think it's coming to its conclusion. But this is going to be one of the only titles going forward. This one and probably Amethyst are going to be the only DC titles on my pull list. So yeah, that was the first pick of the week that I really enjoyed.
I haven't read that Far Sector yet. I did. Mm-hmm. Ooh, Jamal Campbell's art's beautiful. Oh god, yeah. Like the colors pop. Like everything in that book is just c'est magnifique.
It's gorgeous, and it really just made me give a shit about a character that I've never really been into
before.
Yeah. So this one, it's really good. I'm trying to get like a non-spoilery page, but I don't want to give away too much. Highly recommend. It's probably going to be hard if you try to find the single issues of these, and I don't know when there's going to be a trade coming out of it, like a collected volume. So we'll see.
Yeah, because there's not really been a break in the story to really even make a trade out of.
No, so I think that what they're going to do, I mean, obviously it's going to be 12, so I wouldn't be surprised if they did like a big collected volume. I'm sure that'll be really nice and fancy when that comes out.
Fancy.
So
my pick, it's going to be filed under the No Shit Sherlock for people who've watched the show, but Nailbiter returns. The team, after not doing the book for, I want to say, 3 years almost, come back seamlessly. And you could tell still that this team, like, they get it. They vibe together. It jumps a few years in the future. I'm trying to non-spoiler the shit out of this book because... So, like, this is one of those weird books that you can have not read the original series, and it'll still fill you in enough that you can, but really just go back and read the original series if you haven't. Yeah. Mike Henderson's art is another one of those ones that just seems to work for this book. Williamson, kind of leaving you morsels to keep you going. Alice returns as the main protagonist. And Nicholas Finch is back, and we find out what happened to the Nailbiter. We also go through more of the Buckaroo Butchers that some we haven't heard about before. Alice's hair is now just regular blonde. She looks just like a young version of her mom. And a mystery ensues when she goes home and finds blood everywhere.
Yep.
And again, it's one of those pages that's monochromatic, but the blood just pops everywhere. We see a clown that likes to run people over. The blonde is back again. And Crossbones. I really enjoyed it. I'm going to try and find that page.
The thing that I liked about this issue of Nailbiter is as someone who has only read the first volume, you could easily, in my opinion, have just read the first volume and then easily get into this. Like,
Very much so.
You could probably tell me how many volumes it is, like what, 5 or 6 volumes? 6 volumes. So, go and read those, but you could easily have just read the first volume and then get into this. When I first read Nailbiter, because it was one that you had suggested for the book club, it was based in Oregon, and that was really fun for me. Not specifically in Portland, but Nailbiter Returns is in Portland, Oregon. So I'm like, ooh, that's where I'm at. There's probably serial killers all around me. Nice.
It's a solid 8 out of 10 for me.
Yeah.
Again, if you haven't read the book, it's one of those books where what you think it is versus what it actually is are two different things. Like Nailbiter, you think it's this horror book, but it's more of a suspense book.
Like crime.
Yeah. Trying to think what's not Unsolved Mysteries, but maybe a little bit.
Speaking of Unsolved Mysteries, really quick, apparently Netflix is redoing it, and then next month is going to start, in July. I think I saw July 17th. A new season or redo of Unsolved Mysteries is going to be on Netflix, and I'm excited about that.
I weirdly have had trouble watching shows. I can't stay focused long enough.
Really? Maybe that's why you didn't like Blood Machine.
We're not there yet.
Okay.
I tried watching Last Days of American Crime.
Oh.
The Netflix series based on the Rick Remender series. I could not get into it.
Really?
I sat down, I'm like, all right, it's my day off, I'm going to watch this. And I was like, I don't care. And then I ended up just reading and putting a documentary on in the background.
I feel I've kind of been doing the same thing. It's been really hard for me to focus on things. However, I did watch on Apple TV Plus Deer, and that was really good. So it's basically the first episode was Spike. What's the? Oh my God, what's his name? What's his last name? Spike Jonze.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So sorry. So
I was like Spike from Buffy.
No. Sorry. So it was basically, there's it's episodic. And the first one was Spike Jonze, and people are sending him letters hey, this is how you inspired me as a Black filmmaker. It's very relevant, and there's an episode on Oprah, and there's an episode on Jane Goodall, and an episode on Big Bird. So that was a good documentary to watch.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Your next pick.
Okay, so my next pick, I feel like we are both going to. It was really hard for me to pick just 3 like we normally do, so I have a feeling we're going to talk about more than just 3. However, the one that I know this one's on your list as well, Decorum.
I got the alternate cover.
So here's issue 1. I got my issue 2. So I remember this is one of the books that came out right before quarantine started. And so back in March, this one was kind of weird. And I didn't really understand what was going on. I still have no clue what's going on, but I really enjoy it. They're pretty big, solid issues, and I feel like Hickman is now really developing this style. So I've been seeing this not info dump style, but this world building style, and I'm seeing it play out in Decorum. So if you've seen the new X-Men, you know that He's giving you like info dumps, and he's giving you this like this
Every
year.
chapter.
Yeah, and then like when I say world building, I'm talking about like universe timeline building, and that's what I feel like he's doing in Decorum. I'm still like a pinch lost because there's a lot to take in.
The art jumps again.
Yeah, and it's very weird, but I feel like I'm comfortable with it. Where I know I keep comparing the two, but when Mercy came out, I still have no clue what's going on in Mercy, and it's really hard for me to give a shit, but I really like this one.
So the character I gravitate to, the courier, I'm not getting enough of her.
No, she was like barely in it.
Barely a chapter.
And then what was Mrs. Morel? Miss Morel, is that her
name?
Yeah,
I think it's Morel.
So we got a little bit more of her in this one, and I really liked it. If anyone has watched the new season of Westworld, where there's this artificial intelligence machine thing, that's the only way I know how to describe it. There's something similar to that here in Decorum, and I like it. It's weird. So if you really enjoyed this recent season of Westworld, I think that you would like Decorum.
It's weird. I like it, and at the same time, I'm aggravated by it. Like, I'm probably like at a 6 out of 10, 6.5, somewhere around there. It's not bad, but at the same time, like the art jumping, like it's very jarring at times because it'll go monochromatic, and it's just like then all of a sudden it looks like a Kirby page.
You turn the page, and then it's just like splashes of color, and yeah.
For my next picks or discussion, I don't know if I'd really call it. So it was Punchline Day apparently on Tuesday. So the Joker 80th, and then I got the Gabriel Dell'Otto cover. It was a $10 fucking book.
Yeah. But it's a big one. It's a big boy.
It's big. Also, every cover, the corners were jabbed in because of how big it was. And then this beautiful art germ cover from Batman number 92, featuring Punchline. So the word jumbled mess would greatly describe issue 92. The Joker 80th also would come under meh.
Is that so? When you say jumbled mess, is that like DC's brand at this point? It's just jumbled mess because that's how I feel at this point.
It was what I imagine being ADD and being distracted by shiny objects, because that's how I feel like James Tynion like wanted everybody to behave. Where it's like, look over here, over here, over here, over here, over here. I couldn't like narrow into one thing, and finally like Punchline was there and was talking and with Catwoman and Harley, and they started the Harley versus Punchline fight, and it was just like and then they have Punchline's origin in the Joker's 80th, and I just didn't give two shits. Like,
yeah,
she's a fangirl. She's a Joker fangirl.
I feel like now this is my opinion from not even like having really dived into and reading an entire issue of the Punchline stuff, but I feel like because Harley is now no longer with the Joker, no longer his girlfriend, I feel like they just put Punchline in as like, let's go ahead and throw Joker another girlfriend, and it just
my opinion is that they knew they were going to do this Joker War thing, and they wanted to give him a flunky, and then Jorge or George Jimenez, I think it's Jorge, he came up with the character design. They're like, okay, that character design's too good to be a flunky. Let's elevate her. And then they're like, hey, remember how everybody liked Batman Who Laughs? Well, we're going to take her and put her in fucking everything.
Yeah.
And the collectors are swarming to it. It is what it is because they don't want to miss out, so they're making money. I just found the story very middling, and both books are like a 5 for me. It's basic bitch shit.
Yeah.
And I'd been enjoying Tinian's run up until that issue. It will never like touch the hem of hatred that He Who Shall Not Be Named got. But I had that, come on guys, do better going on as I was reading it. And the Joker, like even the Scott Snyder Jock story in it, I kind of just and I really hate having that feeling because again, they're two creators I like, but I was like, your next pick.
So my next pick, this one would probably be my number 1 pick for the week. I just finished a full-length review on my YouTube channel.
I knew it. I knew it.
It's gonna be Bitter Root.
You didn't get the Purple Rain cover?
I didn't. This was the only one that was available. So a girl gets what she can get. So I really enjoyed this issue.
Very Jake and Hagar. A girl gets what she gets.
Yes. So with Bitter Root, for anyone who hasn't really watched or who hasn't read Bitter Root, you really should. Number 1, just go ahead and read it. But it's basically about this family who fights monsters in the Harlem Renaissance, New York sphere. So you've got jazz clubs and all that stuff. However, they're fighting these monsters, and the monsters are created because of the hatred and racism and bigotry that's in their souls. And so the only thing that can heal that racism and bigotry is going to be this elixir that this family creates. However, so in the first volume, in the first 6 issues, they do go ahead and they go to Mississippi and they fight some KKK members and blah blah blah, and that was really really good. But this one goes a little bit more into or the last couple of issues go into stuff further race relations and some racial tension in America's history. In issue 8, they end up going to Georgia, and having lived in North Florida for a little bit and just seeing some of the racist shit there, and just experiencing racism the way that I would there, I can confirm it's still there. So this issue was a little bit more relevant. So yeah. Sorry, I'm making you yawn.
No, I literally just woke up before we started. I didn't go to bed till almost 11 a.m. So yeah, I was working on research.
Bitter Root is a really good story, and I know we were going to talk about our pull list, and I just started one, and Bitter Root was one of the ones that I'm this has to be on my pull list. So
I only read issue 1. I for some reason I picked up issue 1, and then I never picked up another issue. I think I just forgot about it.
Yeah, and I think this one was really popular too. So if it wasn't on your pull list, I know that it would have been hard to get. However, volume 1 is out, and it's really good. It collects issues 1 through 6, and yeah, it's beautiful. I love Sanford Green's art. So yeah,
I have a weird love-hate because I remember his Power Man Iron Fist series for Marvel. His Power Man was so ridiculous looking.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of get that. Don't judge him on just that.
No. I just remember how exaggerated the art was on it.
Another thing too, really quick with Bitter Root. So in the way that I think that a lot of comics that do discuss politics, because politics are in comics, the same way that a lot of I think about Bitch Planet and a lot of comic books that are specifically meant with a social commentary in mind. Bitter Root has some discussion guides and things like that in the back. So there's a lot of academics, and there are little articles written about Zora Neale Hurston and just some of the Black writers, Black artists, and each issue has 1 or 2. So pick up these issues if you can, because that is totally worth the $3.99 that you're going to spend per issue on this.
My last pick, I've been kind of championing it. Rodney Barnes, Jason Sean Alexander, Philadelphia issue 6, which when we had Mindshift on, I accidentally told him the trade was coming out this week. I was wrong. It was issue 6. This actually finishes the storyline. And boy, does it ever. Like,
I haven't read it, so no spoilers.
No. If this ended the series, I would have been okay with it. It would have been a satisfying ending.
Mm-hmm.
But the city of Philadelphia is burning. The vampires are now, it's known that there are vampires in fucking Philadelphia. The Sangsters with their vampire friend are confronting John Adams and the vampires. I'm not going to spoil it, but what a fucking satisfying ending. Again, if they could have ended the series there, I would have been fine with it ending there. Like, it was an incredibly satisfying ending. But it's not the end of the series, so we have more of it coming. Solid 8 for me, 8 out of 10. Totally worth it, and please pick up the trade when it comes out if you haven't been picking up the issues. Yeah. It's a series I think everybody should read, and Rodney Barnes, wasn't too familiar with his work before this, but if you're looking for an African-American creator to follow, I think he's got a great future ahead of him. He's also a TV writer, apparently, so yeah. He's got writing chops. But this book came out of nowhere. I wasn't expecting it. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be, and I will compare it to being the HBO show The Wire mixed with Guillermo del Toro's The Strain.
Yep.
So it's got a little bit of everything for everyone. And Jason Sean Alexander's art reminds me of Ben Temple-Smith's from 30 Days a Night.
30 Days.
A little bit cleaner.
Yeah.
That would be my big critique of it, I guess. Again, it's a hard one to talk about without spoiling it, so I will just leave it at I really fucking enjoyed it.
I have one more issue that I want to talk about this week. It wasn't necessarily in my top 3, but I feel like it deserves a little bit of talking about, and that's Adventure Man.
I have it. I did not get to read it yet.
It's a lot. It's a really thick book by Matt Fraction, Terry Dodson, and I feel like this book is going somewhere. I don't know exactly where I feel like it's going right now, but I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the artwork. I enjoyed the characters, and yeah. I don't know if you plan on reading it.
I have it. I have it. I just haven't read it yet. Same with Something Is Killing the Children. I didn't get to it.
Yeah. So it is really good, and I feel like
I love the art, so I was going to pick it up no matter what.
Yeah, and I feel like the art really fits the theme. The one thing that I would say about it is that it is really long, and I feel like not necessarily that it's an info dump, but it's just as long as it needs to be to get us where we need to go, where I think the next couple issues will be good. If this book, I think, was anyone else other than Matt Fraction and Terry Dodson, I probably would have given up on it. But I think that I can see that it's going somewhere, and I feel like the title is a little bit misleading, but it was very intentional because there is an Adventure Man, and there is this group of superheroes that you're following, but the story is not about Adventure Man, but this book and this woman who works at a bookshop, and she ends up getting a hold of this book and then goes into I don't want to say secret society type stuff about him, but it's more focused on her than Adventure Man himself. So
Is it humorous fraction or is it like serious fraction?
I feel like it's more serious. There's bits of humor in it, and there's bits of definitely personality in it. But I feel like it's a lot more serious than it's funny. I feel like I can tell that it's going to be family oriented, and I'm trying to think of, like, it's not going to be sex criminals, Matt Fraction. It's definitely going to be, and I wouldn't say as serious as something like November was, but I can tell it's going to be a lot of fun.
I kind of made you watch something because I was watching it, and I'm endlessly fascinated by Nightmare on Elm Street 2.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much weird shit that went on with that movie. Watch Never Sleep Alone, or Never Sleep Again. Sorry,
Never Sleep Again. Yeah.
That documentary, and they kind of paint the picture of what the fuck was going on with that production. Mm-hmm. So this indie documentary came out that Shudder picked up called Scream Queen, which was about the actor Mark Patton, who starred as Jesse in the movie, and things he went through as an actor. And it goes through his growing up and what happened to him in his home life. It is heartbreaking. It's dead serious. Like, there is some dark shit that happened to this guy. And at a certain point, you find out that not only did he have to leave Hollywood because he was so mortified after doing Nightmare 2 and felt he was outed by the writer, he also got HIV. He has tuberculosis on top of that. Mm-hmm. And it takes you on this weird trip of, like, he like left Mexico and went off the grid, and then the Never Sleep Again people found him, and then he found out about this whole second life of the movie, which further infuriated him with stuff he was being called online.
Yeah. I want to give like a pinch of a primer for anyone who is like not familiar with this. So, like, Nightmare on Elm Street 2 is one of those movies that it's the gayest horror film, and that subtext, and it is very queer, and for a very long time that was obviously seen as a negative thing. And the writer, Chaskins, what's his name? I can't recall the writer of Nightmare on Elm Street.
Chaskin, I think.
Chaskin, yeah. So he wrote this, and there is a lead character in it who is gay in real life, and he was in the closet in the 80s for a very long time and played the lead role. And so, you know, after this film comes out, and he like you said, goes to Mexico because he doesn't want to be outed as a queer actor, and he moved to New York. What this documentary goes on about is that, like, he moved to New York so that he can be an out person, like, so he doesn't have to hide in the closet in this like small town. And
which he was afraid he was going to get killed.
And yeah, he was afraid. He even says, you know, if I grew up in this small town as a gay person, then I would have died. I would have, like, my soul would have died. I would have literally died because I would have been killed by homophobes and left to die in the street, which we saw in Laramie, Wyoming. And
he left. His family never looked for him.
Yep, never. Like, I think that he says that, like, he didn't really have a relationship with his dad after that. And when he left his small town, he was like, they referred to me as having ran away. When I didn't, I just left, and no one ever wanted to see me again. So he moves to New York so he can have this career in acting, and then ends up moving to California because he wants to be like a movie star, and he kind of gets there with Nightmare on Elm Street 2. But then one of his lovers, who contracts AIDS, ends up getting outed as a gay person in Hollywood. during the AIDS epidemic and dies. And he ends up contracting HIV as well. And you're right, the documentary is so heartbreaking because you see that it basically ruined his life because he was like, I was so afraid of being outed as queer, outed as having HIV, that he moved to Mexico, didn't understand, like, this is pre-internet, so it's not like he would go on IMDb, but you can see, like, oh, they call him the F word, and
they put all these comments off IMDb and all these other like websites, and every one of them, it's like, pardon my, it's calling him faggot, pedophile,
just disgusting, horrible things.
Yeah, and so like he agreed to do this documentary basically because they were going to allow him to confront the writer.
Yeah.
And at the very end, spoilers, the two of them sit in a room together and they talk about it. And I was sitting there like, this is unsatisfying.
100. Like, I watched Chaskins. I just wanted him to be like, that bitch Patrick Chaskins or whatever. And then I was like, wait, do I want him to play Tiger King? And I'm like, nah, he deserves better. But the writer basically gives him an apology that's not an apology. And the actor, I can't think of his name.
Mark Patton.
Yeah, Mark Patton says to him, you know, you're now getting all of the credit for like writing this like famously queer movie, but just a couple years ago, you literally said, I didn't write this as a homoerotic movie. I wrote it as a homophobic movie, and this movie should be played in queer conversion therapy. Basically, the moral of the story is that if you're a queer person, if you're a gay dude, then the right woman can come and fix you. And the apology that Chaskins gives is like the shittiest apology. It's basically like a Trump apology. I wanted to reach through the screen when I was watching this and just punch this dude because his apology was nothing. And all the credit to Patton for being like, you know, he's the only one who gave me an apology, so I'll take it. And for him to rejoice in being like an out gay man and being HIV positive and out about that, and being an activist, he's like, you know, I'm not known as like the gay actor in this movie. I'm known as an AIDS activist, and that was cool. That was like the one redeeming, like.
There was the cool thing where he, you know, showing what he does with the audiences at the screenings, where, you know, they do the dance and like he'll, you know, get to know the audience and then he'll go, you know, I have HIV and, you know, this is how I deal with it.
Yeah.
And also there's a beautiful moment in the beginning where he's going to the horror convention and he's like, for some people, I'm the biggest star they're going to meet. So for those couple of seconds where I'm with them, like, he has to be on.
Yep.
And it was interesting to hear someone actually like say those things because he understands like what it's like. And then him talking to all the other queer people coming up to his table. There was something to it. Again, like, this documentary is horrifying.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, there kind of is a happy ending to it, sort of.
Oh, for sure. Especially for him to be like, you know, for the first time, whether it was written or not, people, they're flipping the script on the final girl and how the final girl has to, like, they even showed like a woman like grabbing a knife and like, you know, talking about it like as a phallic weapon.
Yeah.
But for him being a scream queen, it was really cool to see that. I have not watched that movie, Nightmare on Elm Street 2. I have not watched it in a very long time. So I think I'm going to watch it again, and watch it with the eye of having a queer subtext. And I think because I want to do the same thing with Hellraiser, like seeing like that queer subtext in it. Like,
I never found it in it.
Even after like reading like the comic books and all of that, I haven't seen it too much, but you know, it's kind of the same thing. Like, I think if you go back and you watch things like The Matrix and you think about that as an allegory for transgender people, knowing now that it's written by 2 transgender women or people. I think you can go back and you can find those things, even if it's just subtext.
The real love affair of Nightmare on Elm Street 2 is the characters Jesse and Grady.
Yeah.
But that's my opinion.
Well, I mean, I'm sure that there's, I mean, even watching the documentary and seeing the very, I don't even want to call it subtle, but even the relationship between him and Freddie, like when Freddie's like caressing him, and then there was the moment where he's like, well, why don't you put like your nail in my mouth? And then the makeup artist was like, don't do that, it looks phallic. And you know,
the leather daddy bars. Oh, actually, Robert Englund talking about Mark Patton was interesting, and him talking about the times in the 80s where like shit was scary. Like it was scary. Like and then they showed some pictures of people going through full-blown AIDS that I did not need to see, but I guess they needed to hammer home.
I think that we do need to see them because, you know, I don't think that we should quickly forget the AIDS epidemic. And I think that for a lot of queer people now, don't know that that's what happened to a lot of people, and that we now have a vice president who oversaw the AIDS epidemic, and it completely ruined the community. And now that person is heading our COVID response stuff. So, you know, no politics.
Yeah. Again, like I watched this and I was like, I think Jen needs to watch this because like I literally started crying at one point during it.
I'm glad you recommended it because I probably wouldn't have watched it otherwise.
It's heavy. It's real fucking heavy.
It's very heavy, but it was very good. And it was tough. And the director's name, I can't remember his name, but the director he basically, so Patton is basically talking about like, this is what it was like growing up for me. This was my experience in the movie. He's saying like he has a lot of resentment for what he went through. Not necessarily like, I don't think he was blaming the movie for him getting AIDS or for him moving to Mexico or any of that. But I think that there was a lot of resentment in him. And then afterwards, the director like takes it upon himself to pull him aside and then just be like, well, I think that you need to forget all this and you need to just let it go. And I wanted to punch the director too. Like, fuck that director.
Yeah.
Fuck you. It was really rough watching that because he didn't get it at all. Didn't get it at all.
A little bit tone deaf. Well, not a little bit.
100%, very, very tone deaf. 100%.
And I wonder if like all directors are kind of like that.
I think so. I mean, in movies, in comic books, you have a lot of like moving parts, and it's not just one person doing thing, it's a team. And so everyone's like blaming stuff on everyone else because the writer's like, well, I didn't write that you should do a girly scream. And then, well, I didn't write that it's a gay bar. But then the director's like, well, I didn't know that it was a gay bar either. I went to the gay bar when it wasn't open, so I didn't know it was a leather daddy club. And the other people were like, are you kidding me? It's one of the like most famous, like,
the guy who played Grady goes, are you fucking joking?
And but I think that one of the things that I did take away from this documentary is that even when things aren't openly queer, I think that you can find those queer things in the movie and you can pull them out and you end up being a scavenger. And 100% like I identify with that because so when you're young and you're growing up and you don't necessarily see queer people on the screen, but you're like, I think, like, I remember having that moment with Xena, and I'm like, Xena and Gabrielle, like, they're together. And I even remember like thinking that when I was like 10, 11 years old, and I got it. And I think that's so true. Like, you end up scavenging for things that you don't see, but you feel in your heart. So
hey Jen, can you vamp for a bit? I got to go get something real quick.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, thanks.
So I really enjoyed this documentary. It's on Shudder. It's called Scream Queen. So Scream, Queen. And it's about Mark Patton, who was in Nightmare on Elm Street 2, the gayest horror movie, all of that. But it's still a phenomenal movie, and I think that we should watch it knowing that there's a queer subtext and celebrating it, and scavenging the queer stuff for what we can. So highly recommend that. While Dan's away and I have this platform, I think that we should be able to go ahead and like talking about queer stuff. It's Pride Month, and I think that we should be able to celebrate that, and not just in like a scavenger type way. So happy Pride Month to anyone who's celebrating Pride. And even if you're not celebrating it openly, you're still allowed to celebrate it. So thank you. I can't see any comments that are coming through right now, but maybe there's some comments that Dan can post up whenever he gets back. We'll just go ahead and wait for him. I don't want there to be an awkward silence, but it looks like there's going to be. I'm not really sure. Does someone want to see the cat that I have? The most beautiful cat in the world. His name is Luna. And he's a big boy. He says hello. Oh, you can't really see. Okay. Well, that's all right. I don't know what anyone else has been doing this quarantine, but I broke my foot during quarantine. And I think when I was on pain meds, I went super hard, and I ordered about 50 graphic novels. And so I've got like a nice little stack here that I'm working on. Plan on doing a lot of reading. Okay, good. Dan is back. I think that was, Dan, you're back. I think that was really awkward. I started just randomly talking, and then my cat's here with me, so Luna and I took over for a little bit. So
sorry if I didn't go to the bathroom. If I didn't go to the bathroom, I wasn't going to make it.
I don't know. I can't see comments, like because
we have no comments.
Like, no comments. Okay, cool. So
there's nobody watching.
No hate mail just yet.
We lost all our viewers last week.
Oh yeah, that's true, because we talk about politics and comics. So. Well, this will still be aired later.
So did we want to talk about our pull list next week, or our actual pull list that we have like ongoing?
Well, I just started mine at a new shop, Books of Pictures, since I didn't get it started before the quarantine, since I had just moved here, and then I just started it. But I don't know. I was so conflicted about DC. Like, do I even want to put any DC things on my pull list? And like I said, I put like 2 or 3 things, and that's going to be it.
So DC, like strictly, it is the regular Batman title. Any Lee Bermejo covers, because I really like his art, which it's detective right now. Mm-hmm. The Last God from Black Label.
Okay.
Far Sector.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the Young Animal imprint. Batman's Grave. I have that as well because it's Warren Ellis.
Yeah.
So I have like things that like specifically at my shop, like if it's Warren Ellis, it goes in my file. If there's an Art Germ cover, it goes in my file. So I have certain thing like blanket statements of like certain creators, just go ahead and put it in my file. Let's see, what else from DC do I have? The Hill House stuff I have for my file.
I really I read the first 2. I don't know if a third one has come out, but Wonder Woman Dead Earth on the Black Label, I really enjoyed that.
I almost picked up the Tempest one that came out yesterday because it had Layla Del Duca art in it.
Mm-hmm.
I came very, very close to picking that up. Yeah, my DC reading is kind of very lean right now. Most of it is the imprints that I've been getting, and a couple of the actually it's almost all Black Label stuff. The regular DC, like the Williamson's Flash, is the only other thing I really get from DC.
Yeah.
And then I'll pick up like random issues here and there, either because of the cover or because they might be a good read. Naomi, whenever that comes back around, it's on my pull list.
Yeah.
That's it from DC, really. Boom Studios, it's Once and Future. Something is Killing the Children. Image, if it's Remender, I get it.
Yeah.
Of course, Birthright by Williamson is on it. Gideon Falls, I get digital. I don't buy the comic, but I buy it, but I don't.
I'm surprised you're still reading that.
It's finally starting to get somewhere, and like it's just. I don't want to say I was hate reading it, but like it was aggravation reading.
Yeah.
Decorum's on my list. Saga, of course, when that comes back out, is on my pull list. Moonshine is digital. I don't buy that one in physical. Through Sex Criminals is on my pull list. Witches, whenever that comes back out, has stayed on my pull list.
Yeah.
American Vampire is on my pull list whenever that comes back out, which they're working on.
We know Nailbiter's on there.
Yes. The Family Tree, Ascender. Trying to remember what else is out that I've been getting. Trees by Warren Ellis, whenever that comes out, is on there.
Mm-hmm.
Philadelphia, Excellence.
Bitterroot.
I don't have that one. I think he just stopped ordering it.
Yeah. Well, I know. I put. Let me think. For Image, I put Tartarus on there. I really enjoyed that. That one was like, it's a big book. Like there's a lot going on, and I enjoy it. There's like a lot of other Image ones that I can't think of now, but Image was obviously like the powerhouse of my pull list.
Yeah, that mine too. It's the majority of it that I get. Like Marvel, it's basically Daredevil and X-Men.
You know what's so funny is that I think when I just did my pull list, I think that there was like one thing of Marvel on there, and I don't know if it's because with all the X titles, like shifting like after I moved, I didn't collect some, so I'm like, okay, I'll just go ahead and wait for the trade on all of these titles, like New Mutants, Excalibur, and Marauders, and all of that. And I didn't put like anything but maybe one thing of Marvel on my pull list.
Immortal Hulk, I read digitally, but I don't buy the single issues. Captain America, I read digitally, but don't get the singles. Trying to remember, my Marvel is like super, super lean. Like I haven't really been enjoying it.
No. There's a couple like other random things. Like I think I put like 2 or 3 Vault titles on there.
Heathen, that's the only one from
Heathen.
Vault.
That one I really enjoyed. So that one will, like, as long as it's going on, I'll be buying that one.
Yeah, I find for like Wonder Woman Dead Earth comes out next week.
Okay, that's what I thought. I'm like, I know that number 2 came out right before or during like the beginning of the quarantine, so I wasn't sure if that was one of the ones that had already. I love those because like the artwork is great, and then like the size format, even though it's a little bit larger, I really enjoy that book.
I usually I have Mark Miller put on my pull list. Like if he puts out a number 1, like it'll always end up in my file.
Yeah.
Just because like I tend to end up picking up his stuff, and usually I know in an issue if I'm gonna want to keep up with it or not. Oh,
Yeah.
Die is definitely on my pull.
Yeah. Yep.
Usually anything by Kieran Gillen, I usually end up at least getting the first issue. Also, Grant Morrison, I always have like, I need to see what he's up to.
Yeah.
But then there's the books that end up in my file that I end up not digging. We'll just call it Undiscovered Country.
Yeah. You know, that one, I picked up the first couple issues, never really kept up with it. And then I saw number 6. I think that they were giving like all the proceeds to the NAACP, I think that it was like a pretty big good afternoon. I think that they were going to give a lot of money to an organization, and I'm like, man, I should have picked that up this week. So I'll probably be trying to get that one.
Yeah, I find my pull list, I'm always changing it, like, and curating it. Like, I'll start getting stuff, and then, like, I kind of do the 3 to 6 issues where I know if I'm going to stick with it or not.
I think the burning, like, when I made my pull list, I'm like, do I want Mercy on my pull list or not? Like, I feel like right now, I just saw you roll your eyes, and that was exactly it. I'm like, I love the artwork, but, like, I'm probably going to keep picking up the issues, but if it doesn't get somewhere by this, like, third issue, I'm just not even going to bother. And, like, I know when I read issue 1, I'm like, maybe I'll wait for the trade. But depending on how issue 3 turns out, I may not even do that.
I did add the Kill Lock to my pull list.
Weird. You know, I saw number 5 came out this week, right? Yeah. I almost added it, but I'm like, I didn't enjoy it as much. I'm definitely going to buy the trade on the Kill Lock. So whenever that finishes its run, because I think this week was the penultimate issue.
Yeah. With X-Men, though, with that crossover that's about to happen, the X of Swords, I'm like, that might be the one that breaks me and makes me, like, cut down further. Like, there's just too many mutant titles right now, where it was nice that there was 2. You had Austin Powers for a while, and that was nice. Kind of like Spider-Man right now, where there's just the one title, and it's good. Like, I can stay with one title, even though I do it digitally, because I just don't have room to store stuff that I don't care that much about.
That's kind of where I'm at. Like, I mean, of course, I'll always, like, love my single issues, but living in a very tiny apartment, and the only space I really have for them is my, like, underneath my bed can fit along, like, the long boxes fit just perfectly, and, like, the magazine box is too big. So, like, I can probably do 1 or 2 more long boxes underneath my bed before I have no room. So I'm probably going to start, like, trimming down on some of my, I've been telling myself for years I'm going to trim down on my single issues, and I'm like, I'm going to go ahead and sell them all, and then I never do. So
I forgot, I also have Dr. Aphra and Darth Vader on my pull list as well.
So that's Marvel. So there's a couple things on there.
Yeah, again, like, I felt creatively Marvel hasn't been great lately. There's not really a whole lot of art that, like, really brings me in, because I feel like they have a house style.
Yeah.
DC, you know, there's my comfort food books, but again, I think I'm consuming those more digitally now than anything else. Perry, you're joking, but I have seen this.
It's a thing. Yes. If I had, like, more room in my apartment, I would probably have a couch of long and short boxes. Like, I would have box furniture.
So, not gonna lie, at my old apartment, I had short boxes as my night table.
Yeah, that's actually what I'm using right now. I have 2 boxes stacked up right next to this couch right here, currently. So it's real.
I have a walk-in closet in my room that has all my long boxes and my CGC books. And I just remember, like, my ex walking in there going, "Hey, what's in?" Oh, good God, this is a death trap.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, none of them fell over at that time. So, Yeah, win some, lose some. Um, yeah. So really, that's where I'm at with my collecting. At least my pull list. Again, it changes frequently. Like every month or two, I feel like I'm having to change and curate it.
I feel like having been on the other side of the counter in a comic book store, I feel like I try not to change my pull list as much as I want to, because I don't want to be like that customer that's constantly like adding and subtracting and
but I always
doing
did
the shuffle.
I always did. I'll pick up the next 2 months worth, so that way the order isn't affected.
Yeah,
But
like anything
if
that
it's
was already ordered.
Yeah. So if it's September, I'll be picking up December's. That's it.
Yeah. Yep.
But most people don't think that way. But I work the other side of the counter too. So how long do you think Tuesday Comics is going to be a thing?
So when I think about what DC is pulling, because that's specifically what you're referencing.
Yes.
I think that because of the backlash, like I literally have not seen a nice thing said about DC since they've done this. So I think that there is going to be a lot of backlash from. Right now, I'm hearing a lot of the backlash from shop owners, from retailers specifically, from behind the counter, from what they've seen. I haven't seen as much of it.
Uh-oh. Jen, you're frozen. Okay. Well, once again, we have technical difficulties on a stream on Jen's side. So, well, that's always interesting when this happens. All right, let's wait for her to come back in. Continuing on the Tuesday comics, I feel like we're probably going to have a year of that. I don't know. Like, part of me wants to think DC might get enough feedback from owners that they won't do it any longer, but you never know. Especially with AT&T owning them and running them, it could be a long run of just bad. It's always Skynet, Perry. It's always damn Skynet. I hate when this happens, and for the most part, StreamYard doesn't give me many issues. OBS used to crash on me constantly, so it might be because Jen is doing it on her iPhone 8, I believe she said she uses. Of course, I was not prepared for this. So I'll go over some of next week's releases. Oh, there's Jen.
Hey, okay. Sorry about that. It just went like, it went black to me, so I don't know if
it froze you.
Got it. So was I just like?
Yeah, you were like mid there.
Ah, man, I don't even know like where it ended. I probably went off on too long of a rant. Anyways,
you were talking about retailers, shop owners, and then it just kind of froze.
Got it. I think.
And then I froze.
Oh, so I don't know what comic book consumers are feeling right now, but I feel like, I don't think a lot of consumers understand what's going on with DC and how it does affect their local comic shops. I think that some consumers are just like, I need DC Comics, and like I don't care what my local shop has to do to get it. And for even DC to have the partnership that it does, like with Walmart and like putting trades in Walmart, like that, just it feels weird, and it feels like DC is trying to get away from local shops.
Yeah, and of course, like AT&T owning them always seems like a bad thing if you've ever had to deal with AT&T in any way. Also, when thinking about what your shop owner is going through, I don't know how it is in your town or some other towns, but there's a lot of places fucking closing.
Yeah, and once again, it feels like we spoke a little bit briefly at the beginning about how the profit margin affects things. So like on a, say you have 3 books on your pull list, 3 or 4 by, so like 3 or 4 DC books on your pull list, and it's $3.99 per book. But your comic book shop has a profit margin of 50% of that. Possibly.
Depending on how much they order, because not all books give you 50%. Some are 30%.
Exactly. So then the shipping costs that are now incurred, because you're not shipping with Diamond distributors now, you're shipping on a new one. So then that the shipping cost may eat into whatever profit margin that you're getting from it. So I think that as much as I don't necessarily, like, I still want to get books like Far Sector, and I don't want to take them off my pull list, like, I'm almost like, I don't want to support DC.
Let's also, like, not forget the European market. They don't have these distributions. So who's distributing the European market?
Yep. I'm not too familiar with the European market.
Because they had Diamond Europe.
Yeah.
But so far, I haven't seen a damn thing about who's distributing in the European market right now. So, like Sanimation, Varangi, and Vigilante, they're over there. Like, who's getting them their comics?
Yep.
At least, I mean, I don't know if they read DC or not. But I don't know. Food for thought. Boy, I thought I was better prepared for this episode. I don't know what happened. It's my brand. I'm not prepared.
It's the Hickman episode all over again. No, I'm just kidding.
No. That was a whole... I don't want to think about that episode anymore.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, I'm excited to have a pull list at a shop again. I know that I'm going to end up being the customer, not necessarily that I hated, but I'm going to be that customer that's like, add this, take this off, add this, take this off. A new comic is going to come out, and I'm going to add it to my pull list, and then before I know it, my pull list is going to be like 50 titles, 100 titles.
At one point, I was incurring a $60 to $80 a week habit.
That sounds almost right when I factor in.
This is back when it was $1.95 or $1.99 issue.
Yeah, I was gonna say like that. That's almost what it is for me. I would say that like with single issues, it's about $50 a week. This is pre-quarantine.
Yeah.
Is that it's about $50 a week, and that's maybe if I pick up 1 trade a week. If I pick up 2, depending on the trade, like if it's because Image normally is going to be like anywhere from $12 to $15, but if I pick up 1 or 2 and say one's like a Marvel or DC that's closer to that $20 mark or $30 mark, then it's going to be over $50. But $50 a week is about what I budget so $200 a month is what I usually budget for comics, but it always goes over that.
So on Monday the 22nd, we will be having our next book club. It will be We Can Never Go Home by Matthew Rosenberg and Josh Hood from Black Mass Studios. It will be at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. It's the 1-year anniversary of the show, so kind of funny that Gambit and I started it because we both couldn't keep up with our read list, so we're making sure we read something a month to force us.
Yeah.
I had a 200 plus issue surplus at one point in my read pile.
You know what's so funny is that, like, speaking of surpluses and like thinking about a to be read pile, I totally thought that during this like quarantine that I'm like, okay, well, at the beginning of the quarantine, I didn't know how long quarantine was going to be. And then as it got like further and further, I'm like, okay, it's going to be a little bit longer. I'm like, I'm sitting at home and I'm not doing too much. So I totally have time to go through my to be read pile between quarantine, between, the like things that have happened in like Portland, and my job is closed right now. And between like that and like breaking my foot, I now have a longer to be read pile than I have ever had in my, like, I literally have a stack of books right here, 50 books deep, that I'm like, I'll get to these eventually. I'm trying to like, can I read 100 comic books or 100 graphic novels in a book or in a month? We'll see. To be continued.
So I've been reading that Imaginary Friend book, or trying to.
Imagine it. Which one is that?
It's by the guy who wrote Perks of Being a Wallflower. Like a month ago, we did an episode. I was like, I just got this. I can't wait to read it.
Yeah.
I've only done 2 chapters.
Yeah.
I think this sitting behind me still for the Dune over, I have not even picked up yet.
It's funny because I have Dune on a shelf over
yonder.
there, over yonder off screen, off stage, and it's waiting for me. I'm like, I'll totally get a chance to do it. Have not. But I think that there's a part of me that's like, I've had all this time to read all these things, and I've just been a piece of shit scrolling through Instagram. But I think that we have to, there's a lot going on in the world right now, like the stress of quarantine and the stress of being faced with institutionalized racism and systemic oppression. I think that there's a lot going on right now, and I know that like my body is in like a constant state of stress and anxiety, and we shouldn't feel bad about that, like, at all. Seriously.
And then you get the stress of me contacting you of like, this shit is going crazy. I don't understand what the fuck is going on.
That's a blip on the radar. Don't even worry about that.
I kind of wanted to also do an addendum to last week's episode that, like, I don't think I ever would have had the guts to do it had I not had you on the show. Aww. With me. And of course, the love and support of Cinia, my bestest friend Sid, and of course the support of your partner for you. I don't know if I would have done it or had the guts to do it.
Yeah. So, I enjoyed last week's episode a lot, and I think that it's important to talk about these things. And I think about we may be losing followers. I know like subscribers and stuff like that. And Sydney, I know that like it's happened, but I think that we're trying to build a better world, and that whatever followers I would lose on any platform that I have, like if you're not here for like if you're not here for my brand of politics, then like my brand isn't right for you, because it's life.
We also did get some nice comments. Sid gave her critique, which I was waiting for to get brutalized, but she was, and Comic Book G Spot, thank you for that comment and the voice message you left for me. I really appreciate it. That was really good. And I know you said that you had a lot to say, and you were like listening and just being like, fuck, I have things I need to say. If we do, we have been talking about doing social issues and comics, video stream. I know Cinia is very interested in it. If you're watching this Comic Book G Spot and you want to come on, let us know. And anybody else who would like to let us want to be on, just reach out to us on our Instagram message is probably easier to get to me on my @comic_chop_news or Jennifer on her Comic Books Will Break Your Heart.
You can if you need to reach out to Dan specifically, you can send CD-ROMs to his address. I had to get that in there, man. I had to. You thought it was gone, but it wasn't.
I did. I actually.
We made it through an entire episode. No, we didn't.
Boy, howdy! I thought that was over.
Boy, howdy! I want to get a shirt that says "Girl Howdy" on it.
Listen, it's not going to happen, Gretchen. Fetch is never going to happen.
I'm gonna make fetch happen.
Well, I mean, my boss he ordered Boy Howdy shirts for us.
Oh my god.
Yeah, because he was like, I can't believe these exist. He's like, it happened.
Oh my gosh.
And he's like, I just spent $50 with shipping to get these fucking shirts. He's like, this is a joke that's gone too far.
Yeah. But it won't go too far because it's funny. I'm going to get a CD-ROM that says Boy Howdy on it.
I literally was going to get a rope chain and put CD-ROMs on it and wear it just make a cock ring out of one. I don't know. a CDR ring.
Oh my god.
Oh. Anyway, I think we've hit that. We've gone too far at the part of the show. Well, at least it's not like me from no sleep. Well, I still have no sleep, and then you on painkillers, kind of like delusions.
Yeah, yeah.
And then Senimation didn't make things better.
Yeah.
That was too far. So yeah. You derailed me with the fucking CD-ROM thing.
Sorry.
I literally was like, all right, well, it's over, it's done. But apparently nothing is over. Nothing.
Nope.
Okay, you can find me, as I said before, @comic_chop_news on Instagram or @chopcomic, where I barely post anything on Twitter. All I do is sit and read horrifying article after horrifying article and watch videos of police brutality on there, apparently.
Yeah.
That's all that's on there. You can also find me burning CDs. And you can find Jennifer at Comic Books Will Break Your Heart or @Comics Will Break Your Heart on YouTube.
On Instagram, it's Comic Books Will Break Your Heart. On YouTube, it's Comics Will Break Your Heart. I've got a couple of videos up on there. When I'm done with this, I think I'm gonna work on another one. Haven't decided yet, so we'll see on that.
Are you kicking Josh out of the house?
No, never.
I don't know if your 100 takes last time with that last.
Oh my. No. We'll see.
I like that look over. Like, let's see.
Yeah. I'll have to like sneak it in.
Go into the bathroom with the headphones.
Yeah, exactly. That's almost what it's like because like our apartment is right next to like a super busy highway, and so whenever I record, I can hear the traffic in the background. So when I record videos, I have to like literally, I don't have a walk-in closet. I have like a tiny closet. So I literally have to like get crammed in there, hit record, and then like try to see what I'm about to say because I write a script for mine. So
I can't wait till we have the female empowerment episode. We can have Nat on and Sydney and just have a real fun discussion.
See
my way out.
Yeah, right. Yeah. To me, they're all. I mean, I don't know. I could talk about like female empowerment comic books for a very long time. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, because I need awkward conversation. Not for me, but
I was going to say, when you're socially awkward, all conversations are awkward. They're all awkward conversations.
Pretty much.
Which that's me. Like, I make every conversation awkward.
They end up getting awkward eventually because my mind will start wandering. I'll just go like complete like stream of consciousness talking of like whatever's on my mind. It's like, wait, what did you just say? Huh? Oh, what? Never mind. Just don't mind me. Okay, so that's it for us this week. Next week, I have no idea what the theme's going to be because we never know.
You never know. It's like, whose line is it anyways? It's all made up and the points don't matter.
I might be more awake this time. I kept saying I was going to go to sleep early, and I did not.
That's why you get energy drinks.
Oof, I can't do that. That's too harsh for me. My poor constitution. Yeah, I'm not screaming out, "You're tearing me apart, Lisa," this week, so that's good. Anyway, thank you everybody for watching, and take care. Be good to one another, and defund the police. Take care.
And fuck racists.
Yeah, I mean, don't fuck them literally. Like
no. Yeah, no. Like, it's kind of like, yeah, don't do that. But fight the powers that be.
Yeah. But okay, we're really leaving this.
Okay, yeah.
Bye.
Bye.